Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. The next 10 minutes are inspired by a locksmith and a practice test book. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the engine. When I was younger, I was really worried about kids cheating. I had this one horrific instance where the student, he was a really good guy. I really enjoyed working with him. And he was doing really, really well. But what I found out after the fact is that he had been cheating. Now, I wasn't looking for cheating from this student. I wasn't really looking for cheating a lot at all. And so what had happened is I was assigning him homework out of a practice test book, and he was presumably doing the homework. I'd come back. He was making really steady progress. Just you could set your watch by it. He was doing really well. And again, he was fun to work with, so I didn't think that much of it. But he takes the actual test, and criminy, he gets wrecked. So I go over to his house almost immediately because his mom calls me, and understandably, she's really not happy. And I said, look, I happen to have an open session in an hour. I'll be right there. So I go over, and I'm going over his work, and he's missing all these questions. And I pulled up one of his old tests because on the actual test, he had missed something like 18 out of the last 20 questions. So that's a lot. I mean, that's almost all of the last 20. And for some reason, I looked at one of his old practice tests. And on his old practice test, he missed only like 4 out of the last 20. And I just kept looking at him like, what? What? Hey, how do you do this problem? And immediately he froze. He was like, well, I don't know, it was a while ago. I kind of looked at him more closely. I said, how do you do this problem? These were problems he had gotten right on his practice test. He said, why? I don't know. I started digging into it. He didn't know how to do any of them. And because he was getting them right, I wasn't trying to go back over them with him. If a student gets something right, we're on a practice test, I don't have time to go through every question that he or she got right. I have to focus my energy on the stuff that the student missed. All of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, the student had been cheating the whole time. I wasn't looking for it, but he'd been cheating. And his parents were very upset with him, understandably. They had spent all this money to have me tutoring, and the kid was cheating the whole time. And again, I was younger. I look for this stuff now, but I was younger, and so I didn't really think to ask, hey, how do you do this? Just curious, how'd you work through that? So I go home and I tell my wife about this, and she says, well, maybe we should rip the answer keys out of the practice test book. Then I'm thinking, if a kid wants to cheat, he's going to cheat, or they could get a different practice test book or whatever it is. And as I thought about it more and more over the coming months, I really decided, no, I was never going to make it more difficult than it was. And this came to head recently because a parent asked me, hey, why don't you make it harder to cheat? And I thought about that. I was like, should I explain this whole thing and go over it? And so I kind of tell the parent why, but it wasn't really a sufficient reason. Like, it's a good reason, but it comes down to this. When I went to my first tutoring appointment, I locked my keys in my car. I was really nervous. I was 22. I drove all the way out to Moraga to meet this student to work on writing, and had literally just graduated, and I was really nervous. So I locked my keys in my little RAV4. I'm like, gosh, what an idiot. So I go inside and, hey, may I use your phone? My cell phone doesn't work here. I locked my keys in my car. I just need to call AAA. So I call AAA and get working with the kid. AAA shows up, and I excuse myself for what seemed like 30 seconds because I got out to the car and the guy said, "Okay, is this your car? Are those your keys in there?" I said, "Yeah, that's me. Go ahead." He broke into my car instantly, like it was nothing. Literally like 30 seconds, ran a credit card, on with his day. And I sat back and thought about it, like, oh my God, this guy broke into my car like it was nothing. I had this false sense of security with locking my car. That's nothing. And that's true, actually. Locksmiths can break into your car at any time. It's amazing. I mean, you might have a car alarm, but by and large, they can pop open that car with the right tools, no problem. And I initially thought, God, I should stay away from locksmiths. But here's the thing. Locksmiths are not untrustworthy. I'm sure some are criminals, and that's fine. You know, you're going to have a criminal element pretty much anywhere in society. But I would actually trust a locksmith more than I would trust someone else. And here's the thing. If I'm hanging out with someone and I make it impossible for them to rob me, how do I know that that person's trustworthy at all? If I'm hanging out with somebody that I don't really know. But if I'm hanging out with somebody who absolutely could rob me at any point, and I know this, and they know it, and they don't, then at the very least I realize, okay, this person's at least somewhat trustworthy. And that may seem like a very odd thing, but bringing it back to my student and my students now, I don't make it hard for them to cheat. I make it extremely easy for students to cheat. And I know now, I'm smart enough to know, there are telltale signs of when a student's cheating, and I get after those. I make sure I identify them. I talk to my students right away if I catch them cheating. Because look, there's no point in taking my course if you're going to be cheating. But I make it easy to cheat, to find out who's going to cheat or not. If I tell you that the answer key is at the end of the homework and you don't look at it, then I know I can trust you. If I tell you the answer key is at the end of the homework and you look at the answer key and I know how to figure that out, then we have to have a conversation. And that's not the kiss of death for every student, but for some it is. For some it is. And I would rather know right away, as soon as a student starts doing it, I would rather know that they're cheating. So we can either terminate the prep or I can inspire them to stop cheating. Cheating from a student is not 100% a failure of the student. When a student cheats, it's also a failure of the teacher. It's my problem. I did not sufficiently do my job. Now, with some people, you will not be able to inspire them. You will not be able to change their mind. But some you can. Some you can motivate. Some you can inspire. Some you can change their minds and show them the value in what you're teaching. And for those people, you do not want them to have the opportunity to be cheating unnoticed throughout the whole prep. You want them to cheat. You want them to cheat so you can bring it to a head so you can say, hey, look, you don't believe in this. Let's talk about that. Let's find out why. Let's have a discussion. And that doesn't make a lot of sense for some people. Some people still will hear that and they'll say, yeah, but why don't you just rip the answer keys out? And what it comes down to for me is that I have to believe in my students. I have to trust my students. I have to know who they're going to be in tough times. I have to know that they're going to do the right thing. These are tough tests. This is a tough situation to be in. And the last thing I need, the last thing I want ever, is to have some kid who's inclined towards cheating hanging out in my class. Because more than anything, I'm always reminded of that student. That was a failure on my part. He cheated in part to take the easy route, yes. But he also cheated because I failed to inspire him. And I try to never make that mistake again. I'm Todd, and this is the engine that drives me. Go out and crush it.